Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar merchandise review. In this one we're going to be opening, unboxing, reviewing, just in general, taking a look at the Diamond Select Toys Gallery Diorama Aang figure, statue, whatever way you want to call it. Kind of a complicated product name, but basically the Diamond Select Aang statue that was announced a bunch of months ago and has been released within the last couple of weeks. I'm, I think, a little bit late getting mine, but it's sort of expected with me living in Ireland. So here it is in the box. I haven't opened it up yet. So just here's a quick look at sort of the box from this sort of perspective. Gives you a sense for the size of it, the way it is packaged. You can see it is pretty similar packaging to their figures, in that it's the same sort of style of box, just that little bit bigger, of course, because it's a big statue. But I do appreciate the consistency there in the packaging, and yeah, just pretty nice overall. On the back, you get a bit of a summary of Aang just the general story, and then it just says that this gallery diorama of Aang is based on his appearance in Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is cast in high quality PVC and features detailed sculpting and paint applications, designed by Uriel Katon and sculpted by George or Jorge Santos Souza. So yeah, that's sort of the information that we knew sort of going in. And it is Diamond Select's first statue. It's their first sort of Avatar merchandise that isn't the Avatar action figures, which we've obviously discussed, reviewed before on the channel. So yeah, that's I think pretty much it for just this sort of in front of camera section. I'm going to get behind the camera now, and we're going to open this up and take a closer look at the figure out of the packaging. Okay, so I might have to readjust the camera a few times to keep this in shot. Again, it's a pretty big box here, but I suppose it shouldn't be as bad once we get it out of the box. So let me just cut open these bits of tape on the sides. So yeah, this shouldn't be too crazy with the packaging. I'm pretty sure once I get this bit of tape off, it should just be a case of opening it up. Okay, yes. We've got, okay, this is part of the backing card, and okay, so there we go. Nothing really else in the box, just this, yeah, just this bit of backing with the sort of Avatar art on it, so that's fine. So we'll just close up the box, put it out of the way, and we are left with our plastic here. So again, it seems to just be snapped together here. Do we have tape here? Yeah, a few bits of tape on this as well. So we'll just slice that open here and here, and I guess that should be enough to open it. So we'll just fold this over like that, and here we have the statue, not held in with any like crazy twist ties or anything like that, so that's actually good to see. And we'll put the packaging off to the side as well. So here's just, I suppose, an overhead look at it. I suppose we can zoom in a little bit now. Again, I'll get down closer to the level in just a second. But here it is straight out of the box. Really cool. I love seeing the different like angles on this effect part, which I thought was great when they announced it. And it looks really nice in person as well. Okay, so there is a bit of a tie here on Aang's hand. So I guess the staff is a separate part, which I'm guessing might not hold in his hand without it. I'm not sure about that though. Still, it's quite interesting. I don't really trust myself to take that off and to be able to stay in. yeah, it doesn't really look like it's locked into place outside of this little plastic thing. Again, I'll focus on this more in a second when we get up close. But just initial inspection of this is that the quality is really, really nice overall on it. Not really noticing any like paint defects or anything like that on it, which is really good to see. And you know, there was maybe some slight worries about it just because, you know, it's not the most high-end statue we've ever seen from Avatar. It's at a, in my mind, pretty reasonable price for the sort of quality of the sculpt. $50 is how much this costs. I know it's a little bit hard to get at this point because I'm guessing at least the initial run of pre-orders did actually sell out, because I have seen a few people asking, you know, where can you actually pre-order it from? And I had a bit of a trouble with where I initially ordered it from and had to make sort of a last minute switch of my own pre-order. So I was a bit worried about myself getting it, but yep, it is here and I'm really happy with this. I think just initial inspection is like pretty positive overall. So yeah, I'm just going to do a quick cut here to readjust the camera so we can look at this a bit easier on camera. Okay, so here's a better sort of camera position for it overall, so you can get a better sort of close-up look at it. The face, I suppose, is the one thing I sort of had criticism with when it was first announced. And overall, just having a quick look at the figure, it probably remains about the only thing I would really have as a complaint. And I think it's relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. The only real problem I have is just that I think the face is just a little bit too stern. It's a little bit too sort of angry Aang. Whereas I maybe prefer a little bit more of a kind of peaceful Aang, or more neutral. It's not as bad as I maybe thought it was going to be. They might have slightly adjusted it from like the pictures, the final pictures that we saw, to this, because in practice I don't think it feels as aggressively sort of angry as it was in the past. It feels like they've maybe smoothed out the eyebrows just a little bit. Again, I still prefer sort of a more neutral expression for Aang, typically when, yes, he's doing airbending here, but it doesn't immediately look like it's like directly sort of combat airbending as such. But this is where I'll bring in the Diamond Select Wave 1 Aang. And you know, this is, again, it's a pretty neutral expression here. I think they got the face right on this one. I wouldn't mind sort of this, more of this style of thing on this Aang. Maybe slightly altered to fit the pose a bit better. But you know, you can see the general idea, I think, of what they're going for here and how it works. You know, we definitely wouldn't want it to go maybe as extreme as, say, the Diamond Select Book 1 Aang with the crazy, you know, really wide expression. Definitely not that much. But, you know, something more in between the expression on this one and this one, I think would have been perfect. But like I said, in person, I actually don't mind it as much, and it kind of fits, because a lot of the times, as you've seen in like promo art for, say, for this Aang, is that like he has at times a bit of the stern expression. I guess this is more of what they were going for with this. It's perhaps just that it seems more of a, you know, display of his bending rather than fighting someone. So perhaps, you know, the happier expression would have worked just a little bit better. But yeah, the details are fantastic. You know, the arrow tattoo all the way down the neck, all the way down the back. And then it has it even correct here of like, because he has his hand up in the air, it obviously starts under the armpit, wraps around the arm all the way up and around to the hand. Which I guess leads us to the staff and what I was talking about a little bit at the start, is that they have a little sort of plastic tie type thing. It's just a plastic kind of elastic loop, and they use this to keep the staff in place, because as we see, as we turn it around, he does, the way they sort of have molded the thumb, it's kind of underneath the staff rather than being molded in front of it. So this is a separate piece, ultimately, only being held in by this plastic loop, in that I suppose I could move it up if I wanted to. And there is some sort of movement to it. I don't really want to take it out, because if I snap this, I don't think I have another loop to keep it in place. And I'm not particularly sure if it didn't have the plastic loop, if it would actually stay in his hand. But I guess for sort of a piece that is only connected to his hand and it is so long, this probably was the most effective way for them to mold it like that. I don't really think that's a problem that it's held in like that. That's probably for safety of it, just for them to be separate pieces and use that plastic loop to keep them in place. That probably is the best course of action for them anyway. So for QC, I suppose, I actually do appreciate that. Again, the clothing, sort of like they got right with the Wave 1 Aang. They have got the clothing right, but it works a little bit better in practice here on the statue because they can sort of mold it to be in this static pose. So you can see sort of like inside the side of his clothing here, and again, the details on the arrow tattoo are again fully correct. Going into his hand here, just as you can see here. And again, the hand isn't actually attached to this effect part here. I kind of like that there's a, you can kind of move them a little bit because of the materials. They haven't just glued the hand to this piece like that you can actually sort of separate it, and it shows that, it's not just attached to his hand like some of the other effect parts. There is distance between it. So I do like that. Similarly here, his sort of sash type thing here. It is a very flexible plastic, and it's sort of the thing where, like, why wasn't the Book 1 Aang, why wasn't some of his clothing more made from this type of material where it is more flexible? In that, like, again, the sash bit kind of is like that, but then the orange bit on the Aang is like so super hard plastic, and it makes you not able to move his leg. But again, the detail on his clothing is pretty impressive overall, even coming around the back, and you see the sort of transition from one piece of clothing into the other here. It's really, really nice. And then, yeah, it's attached into the base on the foot, as you can sort of see there, kind of glued in. You definitely can't remove it, and it seems like pretty sturdy the way it's in. And then underneath on the bottom, you can sort of see that as well. So that's pretty cool. You can see sort of the 2020 Viacom Diamond Select Toys, made in China, and it is a sort of flat base here, so that's kind of good to see. And then, yeah, the other thing is just the effect part in general is just really nicely detailed. It's probably, of all the merchandise released for Avatar, one of the coolest effect parts we've ever seen in action. Like, some of the parts that came with, like, the Wave 1 figures were actually pretty cool. Like the big water kind of effect part that Katara came with is nice, but this for like an Airbender is just a really cool effect. I like the, it represents the element very nicely. The spiraling around, arcing around from his hand. You can tell that he sort of spun into this position to create this effect, and he has the staff up in the air to kind of help that along. You have this bit at the back coming along that's sort of, poking up here. And again, all the different sort of currents of air on the bottom, all, spiraling out from the center here. It's really cool in person and stuff like that. So I really do appreciate that. A lot of the previous statues that we've got have felt a little plain, I guess, because it's typically just been sort of almost like this, like a statue, like just the character in a position. Maybe it's Aang holding a staff, but it's pretty, neutral. There hasn't been that much to represent, bending as maybe it could be. And so this is where, like, this definitely feels a lot better. The only other Avatar statue that I have to compare it to is the Zwire Industries Chibi Aang and Momo, which again isn't really much of a comparison, because like this was like a, well, how much did this cost? Like 20 or 25, I think, when it came out. And it's a lot, simpler. Again, it's got the chibi design, so that there's not as much to design. I always really liked this figure, and of course it's representing two different, art designs of the character. This is cool if you want the chibi Aang and just a cute Aang as a statue, but definitely for just a more normal standard Aang, this is definitely much more along the lines of what you would want. I think the detail on this really is fantastic all the way through. And it makes me actually very excited for the upcoming Katara, which we've seen before. Again, if you haven't seen that they have announced the next gallery diorama, it is Katara. Here's a picture. Here's one of the pictures of that figure if you haven't seen it yet. So this, and how well it's done and how it looks, you know, I was a bit worried about the face, but it actually looks better in person. Makes me feel the same way about the Katara figure, where again my worry would be the way they've done the face, but hopefully in person that will actually look a little bit better. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, really happy to be able to put this on display somewhere. I'll probably put it actually, you know, behind the camera so you can sort of see it over my shoulder when I do videos on camera. It's really, really nice for sure. The only other like just statue kind of type thing in general that is sort of on par that I actually have at all in my collection will be this Sword Art Online statue that I have. Let me just zoom out. So yeah, I have this Kirito statue, which again is actually sort of cheaper than this one, but feels, you know, similar quality, I guess. But still, it gives you a sense for like, this is sort of, I suppose, on par with some of the more Japanese style figures, which are pretty well regarded. And obviously this one has a much higher level of detail because of the crazy sculpting that goes into the effect parts here. Whereas the Kirito here just has a pretty general sort of, you know, slash effect on him. The detailing on the different currents of air and stuff like that, the way it, you know, folds in on itself to get across that it's in movement and spiraling, really, really nicely done. But that just gives you a sense for like, yeah, like this is pretty high quality overall. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about it in terms of what I want to say and talk about here. Just overall to say, very impressed with this. For the price, again, $50 retail, this seems pretty good. It's not the sort of figure where I'd say I think you should pay over the odds for it. I think people are trying to get a little bit more for it online, being aware that it's a little bit difficult to get. You know, I definitely probably, if you're trying to pay like probably more than like 80 for it, I definitely wouldn't. But if you have to pay like 60 for it, I actually don't think that's too bad. But for sure, at the retail price of 50, I think it's well worth it. Obviously, it depends on if you like statues at all. I've grown to like kind of statues a lot more. I've always been more of an action figure type of person. But I also value just, you know, sculpting a character in one position and just getting it really nice, and what you're able to do by not having to have joints on the figure, or, you know, do what you need to do to make it an action figure. I definitely appreciate what's going on here. So yeah, there is my thoughts on the Diamond Select Toys Gallery Diorama Aang PVC figure statue. So yeah, if you have any questions in the comments below, let me know. But other than that, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.